What's going on, y'all? This your boy Kev coming to you with another video, man. This time, I'm going to try something a little different. I'm going to try to talk about more than just one thing. You know, one particular topic. I'm trying to make my topic shorter because my topic's really been long. But of course, about sports. That's sports is my life. Almost any aspect of my life has something to do with sports. Anyway, first off, I'm gonna start with something I haven't started with, and I put something I'm probably gonna start doing more of, which is baseball, because baseball is the only thing that's going on right now. Particularly the College World Series. It ended last night between the Florida Gators and the LSU Tigers. It was a best of three series. Florida winning the you call it first two, last two, whatever you want to call it. The World Series is over. Florida won 6-1 last night, but now without a little bit of controversy. It was a pitcher's duel. The first few innings. This can be the first 6 innings. And it was a 2-1 score in favor of the Florida Gators. In the top of the 7th, where it all started to almost unraveled for the Gators as the pitcher I think he gave up a leadoff double, and then after that, LSU was able to get the bases loaded. Were they down 0-2? No, I think they were down 0-2, and they scored one run. And then the bases were loaded with nobody out. No, I'm sorry. There was runners at first and third, I believe, and nobody out. It was runners at first and third, nobody out, because the runner, I forgot the runner scored, and they moved over the other runner on a single. And there was runners at first and third, nobody out. And the Gators turned a double play. Now I know, I know what you're saying. You're saying, Caleb, you said it was nobody out, so that's only two outs. And a runner scored from third, so okay, cool. The tie. So you're saying, if you didn't see, you're saying, okay, cool, it's a tie game. No. There was runner interference called on the LSU runner running to second base because he made contact. Not only did he make contact with the shortstop, because he was making it was a 4-6-3 double play. Not only did he make contact with the shortstop, who caught the out at second and was making the throw to first, but he slid out of the baseline. The runner slid out of the baseline. Again, he made contact with the runner. The runner made contact with the shortstop who was throwing the first. Shortstop still made the out, but that means the score from third did not count. Score from third did not count. The runner had to go back to third base because of the runner interference, and Florida was able to get out of the inning. Then at the top of the 8th, LSU had a chance again. I think it was almost the same scenario. I believe it was runners on. I think the bases were loaded in the top of the 8th. LSU had the bases loaded, and then it was a grounder. I think it was to third base, and he throws the runner out at home. Throws the runner out at home, trying to score. So those were two big opportunities for LSU to tie the game. Like I said, they needed the game to extend the series to the third and deciding game. They couldn't do it. In the 9th, I don't remember them getting that close. I think Florida's pitching did really well in the top of the 9th, and then I'm sorry. Hold on. back up. Florida gets LSU out of the top of the eighth, and in the bottom of the eighth, Florida goes off. They score 4 in the bottom of the eighth, and they have a 6-1 lead again, and then Florida was able to close it out with no real threat, and they win their first ever college baseball national championship. Now, obviously, a lot of people, especially LSU fans, it was a very pro LSU crowd up in Omaha, Nebraska. They called it Baton Rouge North. It was a very, very favorable LSU crowd because there was their 18th time there at the College World Series. They were 6 for 6. No, I'm sorry, they were 5 for 5 in their previous 5 appearances. They won every time that they were there. This time they lose. This is the first loss ever in the College World Series finals. And like I said, a lot of people will go back to that play. After the call was made, the game was stopped because LSU fans were throwing stuff on the field. And, and of course, I'm just saying, it all goes down to that one play. I'm not a fan of that. I'm not a fan of the whole this play changed the game, because there was plenty of other plays where there was plenty of other plays that could have been made that weren't made, and I guess there's the other thing of momentum. LSU did have the momentum. They really did. Like I said, they were able to get I think they were able to get one across, and then double play was turned. Like I said, it was nobody out, 2 outs, but the runner scores, and then they take it away because of runner interference. And I guess and you can see the body language. That's what really kind of got me about LSU was the body language. After that, they really took that hard. And of course, it's a championship series. You don't win, your season's over. Emotions are running high already, but I just didn't like their body language. There was still a 1-run game at that point. It just felt like the Avalanche had already hit before it hit, But yeah, man, I just don't agree with I understand, like I said, the emotions are high, your season's over, but I'm saying that one call didn't lose you the game. That's all I'm saying. That one call didn't lose you the game. Of course, it looks bad, yes, but I mean, you gotta be able to. Like I said, you had another opportunity in the top of the eighth, because you couldn't get it done, and then of course you're down by 5 in the top of the ninth. Still doable, but they just weren't able to get it done. I think they were deflated after that 4-run bottom of the eighth by Florida, and LSU was just done after that. But yeah, I just want to start off with something different. It's somewhere I never went before, and what I wanted to get to, as far as baseball. I'll probably talk more Major League Baseball in the future, but I just want to get to that, especially because that was a championship series. Moving on to the 2 colossal NBA stories of the day. First off, we will start with former president of basketball operations, Phil Jackson, of the New York Knicks. Phil Jackson and the Knicks agreeing to part ways. Phil Jackson took over the job 3 years ago. Let's just say he didn't do a great job. I think the stat was 90 and 121. The Knicks were in the 3 seasons under Jackson as the head coach. Excuse me, as the president. I'm sorry, I said head coach. As the president, they had Derek Fisher. Was Kurt Rambis the head coach under them? Because when they fired Derek Fisher. I think Kurt Rambis coached the rest of that season. I think Fisher got into his second season. He was fired. Then Rambis took over, and then Jeff Hornacek, the former Jazz great, was the head coach this year. And very frustrated New York Knicks fans. Some of them would basically jump ship because it was just like, man, come on. Obviously, there were a lot of expectations from Knicks fans, high expectations because of what Phil Jackson was able to do as a head coach. Of course, having two of the top five players in the game of all time and the most dominant center in the game, didn't hurt either. Having Jordan, Kobe, and then having Shaq, and then a guy like Pippen to help Jordan, and then the teams that Chicago and Los Angeles had under Phil Jackson, it was it wasn't I wouldn't say it wasn't hard, but it wasn't that hard. When you got talent like that and you got a head coach like Phil Jackson, man, 11 championships, probably the. I mean, it's hard to say who the greatest of all time is because it's always different areas. It's the Jordan and LeBron conversation. It's Tom Brady, Joe Montana conversation in football and all that. I'm sorry, Bill Belichick, Bill Walsh. Conversation just to say coaches. As far as who's the greatest of all time is. You got Auerbach in the Celtics back in the 60s. You got Pat Riley. Well, Paul Westhead did win a championship too. But you got Pat Riley and Casey Jones in the 1980s in the Celtics and Lakers rivalry. Great ESPN 30 for 30. And then you got Phil with the Bulls in the 90s. And then in the early 2000s with the Lakers, and the latter of the 2000s with the Lakers repeat in 2009 and 2010. But I do believe that Jackson's the greatest coach of all time, and not the worst exec of all time, but probably one of the worst. Anyway, the Carmelo Anthony experiment really failed. And Phil Jackson, and the way that he's handled the whole Carmelo Anthony situation is really laughable. Really laughable. You always hear the organization, protecting, maybe coddling too much of their best player. I have never seen an executive of a team, a president, coach or anything, belittle his star player like Phil Jackson belittled Carmelo Anthony during his time. He just made Carmelo Anthony look really bad, and a lot of people, including myself, felt really sorry for Carmelo Anthony as he had to go through that. Anthony had a no trade clause. He refused to waive it. Phil Jackson basically was encouraging him to waive the no trade clause, so Phil Jackson could get him out of New York, get Anthony out of New York. Of course, that's where New York is where Anthony is from. He wants to stay there, make the money. Try to win a championship, and all that other stuff. But yeah. It's a crazy situation, man. It was a crazy situation for Carmelo Anthony. And, to be honest, I think Knicks fans are really happy to see Phil Jackson go because they'd rather see him go than see Carmelo go. Like I said, because he's their best player. They don't want to be in a situation like, Chicago without Jimmy Butler or to the other news today, Los Angeles Clippers without Chris Paul. We'll get to that later, though. But yeah. And then, what a difference a year makes as far as what's happening with Kristaps Porzingis. A year ago, Phil Jackson picks Kristaps Porzingis in the NBA draft last year. Knicks fans are basically booing him out of the damn building. they are booing him out of the damn building. And then he comes and has a great rookie season, and then and then he follows that up with another really good year. And now all of a sudden he's beloved. He's New York's second son, basketball son behind Carmelo. Everyone loves him now, and obviously he also was not fond of the direction that the team was going in, and every team has an exit meeting with all their players, and Kristaps Porzingis skipped the meeting. I think it was on Snapchat or his Instagram. You know, at the time he was supposed to be in an exit meeting, he was with his brothers riding bikes in Central Park. I guess it kind of tell you his feelings about the Knicks at that point. So, and then Phil Jackson says that Kristaps Porzingis was on the trading block. He was listening to offers for Kristaps Porzingis. I'm like, you're already trying to get Melo out of town. Why are you trying to get the only best thing left for the Knicks out gone as well? I never understood that. But you know, it's Phil Jackson, is a Zen master. He plays those mind games with you. You know, obviously Porzingis wasn't dealt. I think they were really trying to get him gone before the draft. I think maybe they have another draft pick or something, but they didn't. But they weren't able to. They weren't able to get a deal done, and Porzingis is still a Knick for now. And obviously, Phil Jackson is gone, so we'll see what type of direction that James Dolan, the owner, goes in as far as bringing in someone else. From what I've seen on ESPN, they're looking at the guy in Toronto. I forgot how to say his name, but they're looking at him first. There's still Chauncey Billups out there, former Cavs GM. David Griffin, he's probably a front runner for that position. But we'll see what happens, man. It's crazy. Crazy situation in New York with the New York Knicks the last 3 years. I mean, of course, this probably, you think Phil Jackson, this was definitely a failure. He said in a statement that he wanted to bring an NBA championship back to New York. The city starving for a championship, especially from the Knicks. I mean, everyone loves the Knicks. I mean, if you're in New York, you don't love the Knicks. I don't know, but yeah, crazy, man. It's crazy. Now to the news that I alluded to earlier. The big story of the day in the NBA. Breaking news, not breaking news now. It happened about 11, 12 earlier. I'm recording this about 4 o'clock. The Clippers decide to trade Chris Paul. Obviously the best player on the Clippers. They trade Chris Paul to the Houston Rockets. They trade Chris Paul to the Houston Rockets for Patrick Beverley, Lou Williams, and Sam Dekker, and I think a pick as well. Obviously, a lot of people are comparing this trade to the Jimmy Butler trade from Chicago to Minnesota and a lack of assets the Bulls got. I think they might be okay. I mean, with Chris Dunn, the sad rookie year he had last year, I don't know. He might turn around. But I feel that the Clippers, I mean, of course, they didn't win more. They didn't win more than the Houston did. But I think they won a lot more than Chicago did out of the Jimmy Butler deal. Because you got Patrick Beverley, a lockdown defender, lockdown on your one or the two on the opposite team, and then you get Lou Williams. And you seen what he did with the Lakers in Houston last year. I think I forgot where he finished the 6-man vote. I think it was like second or third. At least he had to be second or third because he was a finalist. And a draft pick, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. I mean, for Houston, obviously you get the general, you get Chris Paul. But now the thing is, how is Mike D'Antoni going to play these two guys, him and Chris Paul and Harden, on the floor at the same time? Because you look at last year, Harden had the ball mostly in his hands. I think maybe after Westbrook he was second in time possession with the ball. I forgot what basketball experts call it, but he was second in time possession with the ball. He was third in efficiency as far as point guard with the ball. Back in 2015, you heard the story by now. He wanted to get Ty Lawson when he was a free agent to come to Houston so Harden could work more off the ball, kind of like he was back in OKC. Of course, he did take over late at times, had with the ball in his hands with Durant and Westbrook, but mostly he worked off the ball, going through screens, cutting, slashing to the basket. And I would say if you want to work on your off the ball work, I mean, Chris Paul is a perfect pickup, because he's a true floor general, and if they can find something that works, man, obviously Harden will still have the ball at certain times, probably especially in crunch time. Mostly, if they can find a balance, to where Harden can work off the ball, and then Chris Paul can maybe work off the ball, have a ball in Harden's hands, because he's going to draw at least two. When he has the ball, so I think that's it's really good for Houston. Still ain't enough. I mean, even with the roster that they have, because you get the potential starting lineup now. You have Paul at the 1, Harden at the 2. Then you have probably a Reese at the 3. I mean, depending on the matchup, you either have Ryan Anderson or Nene at the 4. Nene will probably come back from the injury. I think he's still in the contract with Houston. I'm not sure. I know he went out. That's kind of what changed the Houston series, the San Antonio series, to my opinion. Nene going down, but anyway, you have either of those guys switching in and out of the 4, and then Capella, undersized 5. They're still going to have to get at least 2 other pieces to even be able to contend with the Warriors. They're saying that the sources are saying that Houston is also trying to get Paul George in the mix as well. Try to get Paul George there. If they get Paul George, dude, I still don't think they would be able to beat the Warriors, but they'll give them a series. If Houston's able to get Paul George, they'll give Houston a series. They'll give Golden State a series. I'll tell you that much. They'll give Golden State a series. They may not win, but at least it's going 6 games. It's at least going 6 games, and they'll be a top 3 team, just like they were this year in the West. It's also talks that they could get Melo. If Melo wants a buyout from the Knicks, then it is Melo might go there. Now again, superior offensive player Melo is, not that great of a defensive player. That's the thing you get with Paul George. With Paul George, you get both. You get both excellent offense and excellent defense. Melo, you just get excellent offense. You don't really get anything else. So we'll see what happens as far as that, But, yeah, Houston, that's a big move for them. Big move for Chris Paul. Another thing about Chris Paul, it's talking about Chris Paul being able to get the max. Chris Paul was 35 or 37 years old. Sign a max deal. That's he's almost 40. That could hurt in the long run. But yeah, and that'd be a lot of money to eat up if you want to move him. But yeah, we'll see what happens with Houston, man. I do definitely believe that they are still one of the more favorable contenders to the Warriors in the West. But they sure as heck has gotten a lot of better with Chris Paul. But we'll see what other moves, if they make other moves, the Houston Rockets can make. And then, of course, we have my Cleveland Cavaliers. Well, not my Cleveland Cavaliers. I'm a LeBron fan. I'll say that much. I just say my LeBron and Cleveland Cavaliers. I mean, Cleveland has tried. I mean, they don't have a GM set in yet, but they offered it to Chauncey Billups. Billups is contemplating he's contemplating the decision to whether to take the job with Cleveland or not. Obviously, Dan Gilbert, the owner, and David Griffin parted ways was that last week, and Cleveland was basically in panic mode, trying to get at least two other guys to come with LeBron James and Kyrie Irving to try and challenge the Warriors for the championship. Right now, Cleveland still has the best team in the East. We'll see what Boston will do. I mean, Boston couldn't get Jimmy Butler, but they say they're trying to pursue getting Gordon Hayward, a free agent, and then Paul George, trying to make a deal to get Paul George. Of course, Danny Ainge got the picks. He's got the picks and everything. He's got a lot of assets for the guys like that to bring a guy like Paul George to Boston. He has the assets. Of course, Paul George's eyes are set on LA, playing with the Lakers next year. He's informed Indiana that he will not be back after next season. He will not sign a max deal. He will be walking away from Indiana, at least at the end of next season, at least for right now. So Indiana's trying to do their best to get something for him. But as I said, back to my Cavs, they've tried to make deals for George. They tried to make deals for Butler. They were trying to make deals to get Melo and George to Cleveland. But there is one common denominator in all of the trades that have not been that has stopped teams, that has not gotten teams to make the deal. I say that, and that's Kevin Love. Love, all-star. He is an all-star. Could give you 20 and 10 any given night. 20 and 10 rebounds any given night. But I think teams are really looking at his lack of production in the finals the last couple of years as caution, or as Stephen A. Smith will say, as cause to pause. Obviously, as far as Cleveland losing Love, I really don't want Love to go because his rebounding was huge, with Tristan Thompson struggling in the series against the Golden State. They needed Love's rebounding, and they still need Love's rebounding, and that's what I'm saying. You lose Love, you deal Love away. Who takes over that? Who takes over those? Who takes over that rebounding spot? Now, the deal that they had with George coming to Cleveland and then Ken Fareed coming to Cleveland, even though he's not the manimal like he used to be, I think Ken Fareed does give you energy. You got two energy guys like Tristan Thompson and Ken Fareed in the same backcourt. I think that could work, but I think that deal was rejected too because, again, who wants their franchise being led by Kevin Love, a guy who can't get it done in the clutch moments? So, obviously at this point, I think it's done. It's set in stone that Kevin Love will be a Cavalier next season, and I'm pretty sure he won't be a happy Cavalier, after they've been trying to deal him ever since the offseason. Hell, ever since the finals wasn't even over yet. Love has been a trade option since what I think he first got hurt. Against first got hurt in 2015 when he first got to the Cavaliers. He's been a trade option since then. Hell, he came to Cleveland in a trade, so it's basically fitting. And he signed a contract. Was at before I think it was before last season. Before last season, I might be wrong on that. I think he signed it before last season, the championship year in 2016, 2015, 2016, before the championship. And like I said, and teams is not gonna. I mean, he's not a very valuable piece to a franchise right now. Like I said, a guy who comes up small when it really matters most. You look at it. I mean, you look at how Love performed in the playoffs against the East. Man, Love was just 3-pointer was just splashing like he played for Golden State. He was just going in. He was going in like he was on fire. But again, the second year in a row, he struggled against Golden State. Obviously, everyone talks about the defensive problem. Love not being a good defender, but his offense disappeared. He had a couple of good games, but he just wasn't as impactful in the finals as he was in the playoffs, and that's what a lot of teams are looking at. When the lights shine the brightest, you're coming up small. So why should I take on all that money, all the rest of the money of the rest of his contract? If this guy cannot come through in the clutch for me, if this guy can't do it when the lights shine the brightest. So I think Cleveland is just stuck with Kevin Love. And man, I hate to say stuck because again, he's an all-star. He's 20-10 his whole career. Basically at least 20-8, 27. For 15-7 at least. In his Cleveland days, probably more 15-7. But I just think that he's in between a rock and a hard place. He's in an organization that feels that he's a liability, and then no team is really making an effort to get him because of the fact that he hasn't come up short. He has come up short in clutch moments. So we'll see. Like I said, I really do. In my opinion, I really do believe that Cleveland can beat this Golden State team with the same team that they have. They just need to make changes to what they're doing. Like I said, the ISO ball. Like I've said before, the ISO ball, that's got to go. You got to make a decision. I mean, you got to make a decision, who's going to have the ball or who's going to have the ball at what time, and then what's the other guy going to do? The other guy can't just stand in the corner and watch, It can't just be a pick and roll with Tristan Thompson and that's it. They got away from the pick and roll with Irving and James. I didn't see a lot of that in the finals. That's what I'm saying. Cleveland's offense, I really think that's what killed them in this series, even though they were outmatched defensively. But, Cleveland's offense, that's what they got Darren Williams for. That's what they got Kyle Korver for, to keep up with the Warriors as far as shooting 3-pointers and all that stuff. Again, I'm not a big fan of LeBron shooting, get to the bucket. I understand that, throughout the course of a 48-minute game, you'll get tired, especially with James. Whenever James takes a break, took a break. I'm sorry, in the finals. Golden State, they pushed ahead. They pushed ahead probably even more than they already were. And James had to come in and play catch up, But like I said, I still think Cleveland can win a championship. Win a championship with this team. Win another championship with this team. I just feel that it doesn't have to need. Love is not the guy that needs to go. I feel Paul George isn't the guy that needs to come in, or Meld isn't the guy that needs to come in. They need another Matthew Dellavedova. Like I said, I know it sounds far fetched, but maybe you sign Derrick Rose, or you maybe well, he's a free agent, or you clear space. Get rid of Darren Williams. That didn't work. Iman Shumpert, I'm sorry, he's got to go. Korver, you might keep Korver because Korver just, like I said, do a better job. Like I said, as far as the offense, do a better job at getting him open for good shots. Because Klay Thompson and them, they were all over those screens. Kyle Korver coming off a screen, you already know what's about to happen. So you see Kyle Korver coming off a screen, you defend that. You defend it, or at least have secondary or third options, in the offense. As Cleveland needs to, I don't know what, Ty Lue or whoever is in charge of the offense, they need to trash the playbook. Just trash it. ISO ball, no. I understand you had two of the top, let's say 15 players in the world, with the ball in their hands with ball in either one of their hands every possession. But that's not gonna get it done. ISO ball is not gonna get it done. Pick and roll is not gonna get it done all the time. That's what I'm saying. You got to get one of those guys working without the basketball, and preferably I would like to see LeBron do that. But Kyrie seems like he's more of a scorer, so you probably have Kyrie do that. Kyrie can come off screens. He's a better three-point shooter than LeBron is. So, you can use him more, going around screens and cutting to the basket. When you seen that, you seen them do that and it worked, but they just didn't do enough. They didn't do enough of it. I should say they were ISO, and then a little this and a little that. They need to have less ISO and more of this and more of that. More screens, more cuts. I said, give guys roles. I said you can't. A role of a guy should not be give up the ball to Kyrie or LeBron and then just stand in the corner and wait for them to pass to you. Because half of the time, like I said, they're taking jump shots off the pick and rolls, and then you have Tristan Thompson in the paint against Zaza Pachulia and Draymond Green because Golden State defense didn't work as much. Yeah, as dominant of a defense as Golden State was, Cleveland really didn't give Golden State much of a problem. They really didn't give them much of a problem. They really didn't give Golden State, much to work with. They just basically okay, you going ISO ball? Okay, we're just gonna stop you guys. Just gonna stop you two, as in LeBron and Kyrie. Gonna try to stop you two. Nobody else is gonna beat us anyway. So we're just focused on you guys, because nobody else is proven to beat us. So. And then that's what happened. So, like I said, I just think that Cleveland needs to get a reliable backup point guard, because Darren Williams obviously was not the answer. That can run point and give Kyrie and LeBron a break. Whether they can sit down or whether they can work without the basketball at some point. Like I said, that's why I believe Derrick Rose will be a good, reliable backup point guard. You know, of course, Rose, he wants to get back to that 2011 MVP self. I don't think that's going to happen, especially with his knees. I think if you're LeBron, you reach out to him, you give him a pep talk. You know, hey, you want to win a championship. If you want to win a championship, you know, the last 7 years, he's proven if you want to win a championship, come play with me. You know, I will get you there. May not win, but I'll get you into a championship. But you know, that's all I'm saying, man. If you want to win a championship, come on me. But we about to smash the East, and we're gonna get back to the finals. You know, and we'll have a chance to win the championship. You know, that's why I believe. And they need a new, in football terms, offensive coordinator. They need a new offensive coordinator because this ain't working. That ISO ball wasn't working at all, and I hope they trash that. Trash, put it in the trash. Hell, don't even put it in the trash. Set it on fire so you don't go back. Set it on fire so you don't go back and get it. You know, because that didn't work at all. Anyway, thank you guys for watching. I wish y'all number positive vibes only. I'm see y'all next video.